Now, what are you doing this Halloween? For healthcare worker turned comedian Johnny Locasto, last year meant spending the night watching the latest movie in the Halloween franchise with his wife.
In this specific storyline, Michael Myers, the bad guy, is now 64 years old. I'm supposed to be scared of a guy who's about to qualify for Social Security? Are you serious? But she's completely invested. She sees him chasing actors, victims, like he does that weird gait, the hop-along thing. She goes, oh no, look at the way he's running. That's terrifying. I'm like, no, that's osteoarthritis. That's what that is. He's got no cartilage left at all, babe. But then she starts feeling sorry for Michael Myers as he's running along chasing someone else. Like, oh, maybe Michael Myers just needs a hug. I'm like, no, he needs a hip replacement, all right? I know bone on bone when I see it.
So maybe a little bit more comedic than frightening. But something that is frightening, a new study found that a single person aged 65 may need $157,500 saved to cover healthcare expenses in retirement. How do you work this kind of expense into a retirement plan?
Well, I love that comedian stand-up. I think Michael Myers was fantastic. Being 47, he's been the Halloween sequels have gone on for quite some time. So maybe the future one he'll be in a wheelchair chasing people, but we'll see. But it is frightening, right? It is scary when you look at this other stat that you talk about and the fact that the single person age 65 is going to need $157,500 saved to cover healthcare expenses in retirement time, or double that for a married couple. So I'm going to give you 6 tips that you can take a look for on how to make those expenses to try to have a minimal impact on your retirement. Number 1, plan ahead. So you want to develop a strategy before you retire. We met with the couple, Doug and Mary, recently. They're going to retire at the end of the year. Doug is going to need to buy health insurance through the Affordable Care Act, and so there's some moves that we can make with his dollars before he retires, so it's not countable income for when he applies for the Affordable Care next year, potentially saving 40 or 50% of his health care cost until he reaches the age 65. Number 2 is you want to know how the costs are calculated. As I mentioned, in this situation, under the Affordable Care Act, it is an income, not an asset test. So you want to know what is considered countable income, what's considered uncountable income, making sure that you position yourself in a situation to best take advantage of all those scenarios. Number 3 is you want to understand what your out-of-pocket expenses are going to be. So you could have, out-of-pocket expenses from your doctor's visits, your co-pays, and there's some type of maximum out-of-pocket expenses. I've looked at some statistics that are out there that, in some of these healthcare expenses, the one time a family hits a maximum out-of-pocket, it could, create a virtual nightmare for that family. And so planning now for that and having a bucket of money that's designed for your maximum out-of-pocket healthcare costs can definitely be something that's going to come up. It's going to happen. And we don't want to have you create a GoFundMe account on Facebook to pay for those expenses. You want to build that, financially sound in your plan, knowing what those under and those outstanding out-of-pocket expenses are. Number 4, you don't want to know what is covered and what is not. A perfect example, now this has been quite a few years, but years ago, I was traveling on vacation with my family, and I was opening up something for my son to go down to the beach, and it was zip-tied into the box like most toys are. Mm-hmm. I just grabbed the knife from the kitchen counter block, and I tried to cut that zip tie off so my son could have the toy to go down the beach. Unfortunately, I slipped, and I cut my hand. I still have the battle wound today. Just naturally went to the emergency room, but didn't realize I was, out of network within the emergency room. So I think those 5 stitches cost me about $2,500 because I was out of network and didn't realize, what is covered and what is not. The same would be true as if, you're on Medicare and you don't pick a supplement or an Advantage plan. When you're talking about you're responsible for like 20% of that, that could be a big bill, especially if you get a diagnosis of cancer or a heart attack. That can be a major expense. Also, knowing things like long-term care are not covered. Those can be big expenses. Number 5 is you want to look for health-related tax benefits. So things like, if you're eligible, putting money into a health savings account and making sure that you have that money set aside in a health savings account, making sure that you're able to leverage those dollars, get those tax benefits, use the things that you're entitled to. Number 6 is what you want to do is you want to leverage your assets to protect your assets from long-term care. So that's like things like a life leverage plan, looking at adding in additional benefits to protect your assets from a life leverage plan. That can be annuities with riders. That can be, again, other ways to protect your life savings. So you don't have to pay dollar for dollar if you need long-term care. So again, preparing for healthcare expenses, that's what we do. In fact, here at America's Medicare Associates, just ask for Scott, Troy, or any of the team members, and we'll talk you and walk you through helping for you to have a good understanding as far as what to plan for your healthcare expenses, how to take steps to minimize those expenses, and how to leverage your assets to protect them from long-term care.
And I think certainly if Scott were here right now, he would certainly mention that right now is the annual election period. So as far as knowing what is covered and what is not, especially as we go into the next year, that's not something going to be caught unawares. Still time to get on his calendar and figure out the best plan for you as far as Medicare goes going into 2024. Just give a call and figure out the plan. Medicare, healthcare is not just it by itself in retirement. It's not just taxes. It's not just income. It's all these things working together in a proper plan, and neglecting one of them can work against all the others. So make sure that you have a comprehensive strategy like you get at America's Retirement Headquarters. Give a call, 419-794-3030. Always available online, arhq.com. And as always, want to thank you for joining us here, spending some time with us here on America's Retirement Headquarters. It is home of the Retirement Guys Formula and America's Medicare Associates. Please have a great week ahead of you. Nolan, always grateful for the time. And as we wind down here, I want to leave you with the final word.
Yeah, with it being Halloween week, I'd say enjoy those little ones as they come around the neighborhood and handing out treats and goodies. If you are worried about retirement with Halloween, it doesn't have to be scary to come in and get together with us. We're happy to help you. And just remember, when you think retirement, think Retirement Guys Formula and America's Medicare Associates. We'll see you back here next week, same time, same channel, right here on Toledo's largest talk station, 1370 WSPD.